Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. ChatGPT doesn't actually know anything. That sounds strange, right? Because when you use it, it feels like you're talking to something intelligent. It answers questions, writes code, explains complex ideas. Sometimes even better than humans. So how is that possible? Let's break it down in the simplest way. At its core, ChatGPT does just one thing. It predicts the next word. That's it. When you type a sentence, it looks at your words and tries to guess what word should come next. Then it adds that word. And repeats the process again. And again. One word at a time. But here's where it gets interesting. This prediction isn't random. It's based on patterns it has learned from a massive amount of text. We're talking about books, websites, articles, conversations, code. Basically a huge portion of what humans have written online. Now imagine this. If you read thousands of stories, you would start to notice patterns. You'd know how sentences usually flow. You'd recognize common phrases. You'd even predict what someone might say next in a conversation. You wouldn't memorize every sentence. But you'd understand the patterns. That's exactly what's happening here. Just at a much bigger scale. Instead of reading thousands of texts, ChatGPT was trained on billions of examples. So when you type something like, "The capital of France is," it doesn't know the answer in the way humans do. It simply predicts the most likely next word based on patterns it has seen before. And that word is Paris. Then it takes that word and predicts the next one. And the next. And the next. This happens extremely fast, which is why it feels like a complete, thoughtful response. Now you might be thinking, okay, but how does it remember all of this? Here's where things get a little technical, but I'll keep it simple. Computers don't understand words the way we do. They only understand numbers. So before anything happens, every word you type gets converted into numbers. These numbers represent the meaning of the word in a mathematical way. Words with similar meanings have similar number patterns. For example, words like king and queen are close to each other. Apple and fruit are also close. It's like a giant map, where meaning is stored as distances between numbers. This map is called an embedding. Now once your words are turned into numbers, they go through something called a neural network. Think of this as a huge system made up of billions, even trillions, of tiny settings. Each of these settings is like a dial. During training, these dials were adjusted again and again, based on what the model was reading. Over time, the system learned how different words relate to each other. So when your input goes into this network, it processes all those numbers and calculates the probability of what word should come next. It doesn't pick randomly. It chooses the most likely option based on everything it has learned. Sometimes it adds a bit of randomness to sound more natural, but it's still based on probability. So the full process looks like this. You type a question. Your words get converted into numbers. Those numbers pass through the neural network. The model calculates possible next words. It picks one, adds it, and repeats the cycle. That's how every response is created. Now here's something really important. ChatGPT does not know if what it's saying is true. It doesn't fact check. It doesn't verify information. It doesn't think in the human sense. It only predicts what sounds right. And most of the time, that works incredibly well. Because it has learned from so much data. But sometimes, it gets things wrong. And when it does, it can still sound very confident. This is what people call a hallucination. It's not a bug in the system. It's actually a natural result of how it works. Because the model's goal is not to be correct. It's to generate the most likely sequence of words. Now there's one more piece that makes ChatGPT feel more human. After the initial training, humans were involved in improving it. Real people reviewed answers. They rated them. They compared good responses with bad ones. Based on this feedback, the model was fine-tuned. This process helped it become more helpful, more polite, and better at following instructions. So instead of just predicting words randomly, it learned how to respond in a way that feels like a conversation. That's why it can explain things clearly, refuse harmful requests, and adapt to different styles. So let's go back to the original statement. ChatGPT doesn't know anything. That's technically true. But it has learned patterns from an enormous amount of human knowledge. It can recognize how ideas connect. It can predict how language flows. And it can do all of this faster than any human ever could. It's not thinking like us. It's not conscious. It's not aware. It's simply pattern matching. At an unbelievable scale. And honestly, that might be even more impressive. Because from something so simple, predicting the next word, we get something that feels almost intelligent. So next time you use AI, remember this. You're not talking to something that understands you. You're interacting with a system that has learned patterns so well that it can simulate understanding. And that changes everything. So here's a quick question for you. Did this change the way you think about AI, even a little? If it did, comment patterns. And follow for more. Because next time, we're diving into something even more interesting. If AI is just predicting words, why does it sometimes refuse to answer certain questions? That one gets really fascinating. If you found this video helpful, hit like and subscribe to IQ Tech Nova for more tech tips.